Hey there everyone, welcome back to Utility Sports. Really excited to be giving my day one winners and losers from the 2024 NBA Draft Combine. My eyes have been peeled, keeping track of all the measurements, all of the shooting drills, all of the other drills as well, the physical tests, all of the important stuff that is going to give us a better indication on this year's draft class. Who's gaining stock, who's losing stock. Now, this is very premature. It is just day one. We haven't had scrimmages yet. There's a lot of things that throughout this week will adjust and change how we feel about these prospects, especially with how open this year's draft class is. So this list is not definitive at this point for the overall combine. It is just based on day one, which again, is where we got the size, length, and weight measurements for a lot of these prospects. Also the various drills, lane agility, spot up shooting, the star shooting drills, off the dribble, movement shooting. There's a bunch of different shooting drills specifically centered to helping us get a better idea of who these prospects are and their touch, their feel for the game, and obviously as well just their physical traits that they have, both from a size, weight perspective as well as a lateral mobility, downhill speed perspective as well. Now, in this video, you probably saw winners and losers. This is not to offend any of the players or anything crazy like that. Winners are just players who have helped their draft stock. Losers are players who have lost draft stock. That's where the word losers come from. They have just lost some draft stock, maybe lost a couple positions on where they were viewed before this week to where they maybe are currently now. Make sure you do like, subscribe, and follow us on Twitter as well. That would be greatly appreciated. Over 2,000 followers now on Twitter, which is crazy as well. Let's keep that number growing. I've been tweeting about the NBA Draft Combine all day long as I'm keeping my eyes on it and tracking everything you need to know as well. Some of the important measurements, some of the important shooting drill stuff as well. So make sure to go give us a follow over on Twitter. Link is in the description for that. And let's jump into it now with my first winner, and that is Zach Edey from the Purdue Boilermakers. He had a great day. Day one was a fantastic day for him, and no surprise. His measurements came out insane. Almost 7'4" without shoes on. In fact, he grew half an inch from last year's combine. He's also in great shape, weighed in at 299 pounds. His wingspan was nearly 7 feet 11 inches, which is just remarkable, with a 9'7" standing reach. So overall, just a physical specimen, someone who obviously was where a lot of his collegiate dominance came into play, was just how big he was, how strong he was as a prospect from a physical perspective. But then in the drills, he backed up with some of his good skill work that he's been really honing in on and working on over the last 12 months, as well as his work on his body. I think he's in the best conditioning of his life. He shot 18 of 30 on the off the dribble shooting drill, which is pretty impressive. That does include some mid-range jump shots. He shot 11 of 25 in the spot up shooting drill, which is not great, but that is 44%, and something that, given how we've seen him play, someone who's made one college three his entire career, showing some perimeter touches, I think all Edey needed to do to impress some scouts this week. And he also shot 14 of 25 in the three-point star drill, which is actually pretty impressive and a pretty decent mark for someone who, again, is 7'4" without shoes on. Just incredible. And then he also ran very well in the three-quarter court sprint. He posted a 3.51 second sprint time, which is actually 0.03 seconds faster than Donovan Clingan, who runs pretty well himself. So Edey really showed out this week with his ability not only to be a huge, massive human being, but also his drill work stood out to me, and also just his overall drill lane agility time as well. He actually outperformed Alex Sarr when it comes to lane agility. So Zach Edey had a really great day one for himself. Now, obviously, he's going to have to continue building upon that throughout the week. At the end of this week, I will have my own draft combine winners and losers video coming out that is going to be encompassing of the entire week. Day one, it's very bare bones. We don't have scrimmages. We don't have the field component quite yet. We don't have how they performed against each other in live, real basketball settings. But day one is still important, and this is what draws a lot of the headlines and a lot of the attention. How big are these prospects actually? What's their size, length, weight components, and then how did they perform in some of these various drills? And Zach Edey really hit home runs on basically all of them today in day one. So a lot of credit to Edey, someone who I'm still a little gun shy on. I still think the film for me is going to back up a lot of my analysis on where I feel like Edey will go. I do think he is a first-round prospect. I've been saying that for quite some time now. I am still gun shy on him being drafted in the lottery and the long-term benefits of doing that if you're the team taking him. But ultimately, we'll see where he ultimately goes. I do think he had a great day one for himself and definitely helped his stock significantly. Let's go on to loser number one. I actually have two of them here, and it's the two Kentucky guards who just did not measure in well. And this isn't very surprising. And I don't want to harp on, oh, no, this completely screws their draft, kind of where they're sitting at, their draft stock and everything. I don't really believe that. I still like these two prospects a ton myself. This is more so kind of what I expect NBA GMs, executives, scouts to look at these prospects as, and how I think this is going to impact their draft stock in the draft community a bit. And I do think Sheppard and Dillingham are going to be looked at a little less favorably with these measurables, especially Reed Sheppard, who I think some people were hoping was just a little bit bigger than 6'1 3/4" height without shoes on. And for someone who's a combo guard, that is obviously going to scare some people away. Not everybody, and I still think Reed Sheppard's talent speaks for itself. He was phenomenal in drills, actually posted a 42-inch vertical jump as well. So Reed Sheppard, I still think, had a pretty good day for himself. But the overall combine measurements here for Sheppard and Dillingham, both at 6'1" with 6'3" wingspans. And then Dillingham measured in at only 164 pounds. Again, not surprising. If you've watched him play, you could tell he's very, very light. And then for Sheppard, his standing reach is smaller than mine, actually. I'm actually a bigger human being than Reed Sheppard is. So obviously, he's way more talented at basketball than I am. I'm not making any comparison there. But from a physical profile, these two guys don't look like professional NBA players, to be honest with you, from a size, weight, wingspan standpoint. But they are very, very talented, and I still have both of them firmly in my top 10. This does not affect my opinion of these prospects, to be completely transparent. But what I do think is other people, other GMs specifically, are going to probably rule them out of certain spots. For Reed Sheppard specifically, there were questions about would the Rockets take him at 3 just because he's a really good fit onto what they need on their roster, or would the Pistons select him at 5? My thoughts here is with him measuring the way that he did here at the Combine, that it's very unlikely we see him go in the top 5, and probably impossible to see him go in the top 3, even though I still believe he's a heck of a basketball player, and that's really the most important thing when evaluating these prospects is how good are they at basketball. Even though these two guys are great at it, I do think they're going to get a little overlooked because of some of these physical measurements, and I can't really blame GMs because they are very, very light. They're very small prospects. But at the end of the day, I still think that they're very talented, and I would bet on their talent myself. But I do think that they are losers from day one just with the way that they measured in. They obviously can't control it. You can't teach height. But that is something that teams will weigh heavily when deciding to make a selection in the top 5 or 10 picks of the NBA draft. And you saw that in my most recent mock draft, actually, that I posted today on the channel, where I was projecting these guys being a little bit lower than I've typically had them, just because Combine Week is obviously going to knock them down maybe a spot or 2 each, and that was reflected in my mock draft that came out this morning. Then we move on to winner number 2, and I have another big man here, UConn's Donovan Clingan, 2-time national champion. And he had a very, very good day for himself. Obviously, Zach Edey blew people away with his sheer size and the way that he tested in a lot of these drills. Donovan Clingan really backed up everything that we've seen from him on tape from a size, weight, length standpoint. Measured in at nearly 7'2" without shoes on. So you're looking at a massive human being, someone who's going to stand around 7'3" tall when he is wearing shoes. So on the court, you're getting another unicorn type sized player, someone who can deal with the Victor Wembanyama's of the world, someone who can deal with Zach Edey. Obviously, we saw that in the national championship game. Someone who can deal with Kristaps Porzingis from a size and length standpoint. Clingan, I think, has a lot to love from a tape perspective. And I think a lot of what we've seen from him on tape as an anchor, a drop coverage big man, really got validated today with what we saw at the Combine from an athletic standpoint. I think obviously his mobility still stood out to me. Edey tested extremely well. Donovan Clingan still tested well himself too. So I think Clingan is somebody who is going to be a very good NBA draft candidate, someone who I would very willingly take in the top 10, someone who I would strongly consider taking in the top 5. I think he's a very, very solid, thorough prospect who is going to promote winning at the NBA level. And if you look at his standing reach, this is one of the things that really blew me away. He had a significantly smaller wingspan than Zach Edey. He had a noticeably smaller height, about 2 inches shorter than Zach Edey, but his standing reach still measured at 9'7", which mirrors Zach Edey, so that's incredible. I don't even understand really how that works, but Donovan Clingan he's got a crazy standing reach, and at 282 pounds, he's very mobile. He's strong enough to deal with other big men. And obviously the NBA is at a weird spot. Some NBA bigs are 210 pounds. Think about Chet Holmgren in OKC. Some of them are 280 pounds, like a Donovan Clingan. So the physical profiles of NBA centers are all over the place right now, but Clingan presents himself as someone who's going to be a real big-time anchor in the NBA, and I think today was a great day for him, really, and not even improving his draft stock, but I think really cementing and solidifying where we're going to see him go on draft night, which is a surefire top 10 pick and a likely top 6 or 7 pick at that. Moving on to loser number 2, and it's Ryan Dunn, and this might be a little bit of a hot button topic here. He dominated the combine from a physical standpoint. He actually was one of the fastest players at the combine, also really impressed with his vertical jump at nearly 38.5 inches, I believe. But the one thing I thought Ryan Dunn really had to do this week was show scouts, show executives, show GMs that he's capable of knocking down open jump shots. He really failed that on day one of the combine in some of the shooting drills. In the spot-up shooting drill specifically, he shot 8 of 25, which is good for 32% on, again, wide open spot-up opportunities. Just not what you want to have happen. Even some of the kind of more questionable shooters in this year's draft, like someone like Alex Sarr, who we don't know if his three-point shot's going to really blossom yet, shot 60% on these wide-open catch-and-shoot opportunities. Yves Missi, an inside center for Baylor, who didn't really shoot threes at all in college, shot 13 of 25. Kaishan George, someone who projects to be a shooter at the NBA level, shot 52% on these. Matas Buzel is someone who has questions about if his shooting is going to translate to the NBA in the three-point line or not. He shot nearly 50%. So Ryan Dunn, who shot significantly worse than Kyle Filipowski, Zach Edey, Khalil Ware, this is a massive red flag for him. And I've been a longtime believer in Ryan Dunn. I do like his game. I think defensively he's an extremely sound prospect. It's not surprising to me that his athleticism blew out others at the combine. He is an extremely athletic, versatile wing defender who is going to be a great point of attack stopper, someone who I think is going to be a smart team defender, can fill the gaps, just does a lot of really good niche things on the defensive end of the floor that I value significantly, and I will really still strongly consider him as a valuable prospect in this draft. But I don't think he helped his stock in any way today. Not only did he shoot 8 of 25 in the spot-up shooting drill, he shot 11 of 30 in the off-the-dribble shooting drill. So just a little bit over 33% from off-the-dribble shooting as well. And for someone who, coming into this draft cycle, the big questions for him were, how does he score at the NBA level? Can he be a floor spacer in any capacity? And can he do anything off of a live dribble? Ryan Dunn did not help himself in either regard today, which I'm very disappointed for him as a result, but it's just the reality of where we're at. I think the physicals, the defensive upside still really stand out to me, but he did not cement or solidify any belief in him growing into a quality offensive player at the NBA level. So because of that, I had to label him as someone who lost draft stock here on day one of the NBA Draft Combine. Then we move on to winner number 3, and I have to highlight some shooters here, guys who just shot the basketball well. I think they've cemented themselves as valuable picks here, especially in a draft where maybe there isn't as much upside as you would like to see. There aren't as many like stab and grab type players where you're taking them and betting on development. This year's draft, I think, is built more around role players and contributors to winning around already good established talent. So this maybe isn't a draft to build around with, but it's a draft to build up with. And I think this year's draft has a collection of players who cemented themselves and proved themselves to be quality shooters. Kaishan George, we talked about a little bit earlier. Carlton Carrington shot extremely well. Now, one thing I'll say about him, his jump shot looked rather slow today. I don't know what tweaks he's been making to it, but it was not the same jump shot he's had all season. Extremely slow and not something that's going to be super reliable once he gets to the NBA. So I can't say Carlton Carrington really helped his stock despite shooting it well. But I do think the rest of the players here on the graphic did help their stock in significant margins. McCain really shot the ball well today on day one. Johnny Furphy shot the ball well as well. Caught fire during some of his movement shooting drills. Dalton Knecht really found a rhythm early in the day, and I think just his pure shooting we saw at Tennessee stood out all day long as well from everything I've seen, both on social media and just from what I've been able to gather as well. And then when you look at DaRon Holmes II, someone who I still think is an impressive pick and pop big with his ability to also roll to the rim. The dynamism in his screen game, I think, is really what's going to cement him as a player who stands out from other big men in this draft. Obviously, Edey, Alex are two dynamic big men in different ways. I think Holmes offers something else, which I think would be a perfect fit for maybe a team like New Orleans or Milwaukee. Both of them have picks in the 20s. You could also look at a team like Phoenix, valuing someone with Holmes' skill set as a backup to Jusuf Nurkic early, and then maybe the successor to Nurkic in a couple of years. So the guys who can shoot the ball really shot it well today. I do have to highlight Reed Sheppard here as well. Obviously, I talked about him as a loser. Reed Sheppard still showcased that he is one of the best shooters in this draft, if not the best shooter. So even though I talked about him as a loser, I still, again, am holding my own stock in Reed Sheppard. The size profile didn't help him a ton, but at the end of the day, he can really let that thing fly. So I still have all my stock in Reed Sheppard presently going forward. Now remember, this is just day one of the NBA Draft Combine. This is not anything that I'm saying, oh, this guy's career is ruined or this, that, or the. I'm just talking purely draft stock, okay? Most of my other videos, my mock drafts, the scouting profiles, mini mocks, which are going to be coming back on the channel soon, draft boards, which are coming in the near future as well. That's really where I'm going to talk about what I see for these guys' future. Now, this video is just, again, most specifically talking about draft stock. How do I think the GMs, executive scouts are going to feel about some of these things? Like the Kentucky guards measuring both in at 6'1", that's just not a positive. That's just the reality. Zach Edey testing extremely well in the physicals, that's a great thing for him and something that's going to definitely help his draft stock and how teams view him as a legit NBA prospect. Now, at the end of the week, I will post an overall draft combine winners and losers. That will be much better. That'll be a great video for you to stay tuned for because it'll talk about the combine. It's going to talk about the measurements once again. And we're going to have some more information on drills, how guys play together, some of the relationships some of these players are maybe building with teams this week as well. So there's going to be a lot more content in that. Obviously, this is just day one. We have 7 days of this. So I'm going to continue monitoring it, staying on top of everything you need to know about this year's draft combine. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. Go follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description. Would love for you guys to keep up to date on everything I'm posting up on Twitter. And then also leave a like on today's video. It lets me know I did a good job. Thanks everyone so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.